How's it going, everyone? It is I, Anime Outlet, and this is part 2 of What If Deku had Ultra Instinct. And now, before I start this What If off, I would like to thank True Beta for making the thumbnails for this series, a link in the description to their YouTube channel. Also, I have recently made channel memberships called plugins. They're only $2 a month for many different perks, and if you're interested in learning more about it, go down to where the subscribe button is located and there should be a join button. Click that and you can read more on all of the different perks that I offer with the $2 per month for becoming a plugin. And now, let's begin. Izuku looks up to see a massive school building. This was it, UA High School, the school he had wanted to go to for years because that was the best hero school in the country and it gave him the best odds of becoming the #1 hero. So Izuku would end up walking into the school, as he would then find his classroom, as he would then sit down. Many of the students there would end up looking at him as he looked completely lifeless. They wondered what was wrong with him, if he had something wrong with him, or if this was just some Quirk backlash that was his quirk, as he just didn't look like he was happy to be there, but he didn't look like he was sad to be there either. His face just looked devoid of any emotion at all, as he was just aimlessly walking around the hallways, roaming, hoping to find where Class 1A was located. When Izuku would end up finding it, he would pull the door open, as he would then take a seat in a random seat that he had just randomly chosen. When he would sit down, he would just be waiting for something to happen and for the teacher to walk in. However, the same brown-haired girl would end up walking into the classroom and spotting him, as she would rush over to where he was before thanking him many, many times. She had yet to thank him when he had rescued her 2 weeks prior, during the entrance exam, and so she just wanted to thank him as he basically saved her life in her own opinion and mind. So Izuku would just look towards her and would then say, "No problem," in a completely just bland voice, as she would kind of be shocked by it, but wouldn't really care, as she would then sit down right next to him. As Aizawa would then walk in, as he would look down at a timer. 8 minutes past the bell had rung. You all couldn't keep quiet for 8 minutes. It's quite sad. Maybe you'll have to run some extra laps because of it. Maybe I'll even expel some of you. As the entire class would then just wonder what Aizawa was talking about, and many of them would not really be looking forward to the school year ahead of them, already having a teacher that is threatening to expel them just for talking for 8 minutes on the first day of school past the bell rang. So Aizawa would then explain to them how they're going to be doing a quirk testing activity. It's going to be him versus all of them. Many of the kids would just say, "Oh, this is going to be easy," as they had no idea who Aizawa was or what his quirk was. Remember, Aizawa is a night hero, as he stays in the shadows and doesn't really like a public image. So that means not very many people know who Aizawa or Eraserhead is. So that means that they're not going to know what his quirk is, and he's going to have the upper hand, as Aizawa has already had a chance to see all of their quirks, and has already strategized on how he's going to beat them, and even Izuku, knowing that Izuku basically can only dodge and throw some somewhat powerful attacks, and if he can just erase his quirk, Izuku's virtually useless, as his punches just thought Izuku had an insanely strong reflexes quirk that also boosted his punches, and for some reason gave him orbed attacks. So when everyone would walk down to the locker rooms, getting changed, and finally making it on to a battlefield, Aizawa would then look over to see Midnight, who just happened to have no homeroom class to deal with on the first day of school, was end up going to be refereeing. So she would then lift her arm up before slamming it down, saying that they may now begin. Aizawa would look over to see someone charging at him, and this would be Bakugo, as he would end up rushing at him before Aizawa would disable his quirk. However, Bakugo wouldn't realize, going for an explosion, but it wouldn't work, as he would try to do this, but Aizawa would then appear right in front of him before punching him right across the face, as Aizawa would look over, glaring at Aizawa, yelling, "What did you do to my quirk?" However, Aizawa wouldn't care, using his scarf to wrap Bakugo up and then slamming him into the ground, as Aizawa would then see Bakugo just laying there, thinking that he was now unconscious. So then the entire class would then see this, as some of them would rush towards Aizawa, which they would all be knocked out just as easy. And it would then end up remaining how it was just Izuku and Bakugo, as Izuku would then rush over to Bakugo, who was laying down, before grabbing his hand and pulling him back up, as Bakugo would then open his eyes, realizing that he had not been knocked out. He had been lying on the ground in pain, and he just wasn't able to get up, but with the help of Izuku, he was. As Bakugo would look over, thanking Izuku, as Izuku would then tell him they're gonna have to do something stupid to possibly beat Aizawa, as he wants to somewhat humiliate Aizawa how he humiliated all of his classmates. Bakugo would like this idea, having already been humiliated by Aizawa once and didn't want it happen twice. So he would end up going for a plan. He would end up trying the exact same thing, however this would only be a diversion for Izuku to come up and one-punch Aizawa from the behind, shocking him before both of them would then knock Bakugo out with a combined attack. Bakugo would like this idea, as he would rush towards Aizawa, who was taking a sort of rest after using his quirk so much, as Bakugo would then appear, as Aizawa would erase Bakugo's quirk. However, Bakugo wouldn't really do anything, only staying in a position where his explosions would work. So Izuku would then appear right behind Aizawa before punching him square in the back, causing him to close his eyes, as Bakugo would then able to use his quirk, sending explosions down right at Aizawa's just chest and face area, as Aizawa would be exploded back, as Izuku would then turn and would punch the face of Aizawa while he was still flying backwards, sending him flying into the ground, as it was called a ring-out victory by midnight, as the entire class would end up either waking up or being sent to Recovery Girl, as Aizawa and Midnight would then congratulate both Bakugo and Izuku on their teamwork and how they were easily able to overcome this by using a diversion strategy, not allowing Aizawa to end up seeing Izuku, using Bakugo to get Izuku out of Aizawa's sights, and then blindsiding him, combining for a combo type attack, as they would end up just saying how it was great and they already showed levels of high-level heroes that not even third years can show sometimes at this point. So they would nod their heads, thinking that they were already some of the best in the class, as they would then walk back to the locker rooms, getting changed before being dismissed by Aizawa. As Izuku would end up walking back to his house with Bakugo, just explaining how that was good, how they both were able to use the combo attack to beat Aizawa. Bakugo had just stopped becoming a bully after seeing Izuku just for so long, and he had just seen how he could never hit Izuku. He made it his life's goal to stop bullying people and to end up hitting Izuku. That's all he wanted, as Izuku would end up laughing at this, saying, "Sure, maybe if we both train hard, you might be able to hit me once, or maybe even twice, but you'll never be able to defeat me," as this would only even be used as further motivation for Bakugo. So Izuku and Bakugo would end up becoming friends and even training partners, combining attacks and different things. So Izuku would end up going back to his house before telling his mother all about how his day was. And so finally, the day would end, as Izuku would then go back into school, as that day would end and he would continue on going back. However, after a week, their first hero class was scheduled to happen. Izuku would end up walking into the classroom to see all of the other students around there just hyped up, as they were talking amongst themselves. "Who do you think our hero teacher is going to be?" "I don't know, but I hope it's someone cool. Maybe like All Might or something." "What, are you kidding? All Might? He's the #1 hero. He has so much better things to do than just teach a high school class full of brats," one of them would say, as most people would look at them like, "Wait, why are you calling us brats?" As the person would then try to deny it, saying, "I'm just saying All Might has a lot better things to do, like saving people from villains and defeating villains. Why would he rather teach a high school class?" as many people would agree with this. However, they would end up here screaming and running from down the hall, as they would end up wondering what this was, as the classroom would start to shake, as the stomps and just sounds of this stomping would end up getting closer and closer. And finally, the door would smash open, breaking in two, as there, standing in front of them, was the shiny yellow figure many of them had just disregarded moments ago. There, standing in front of them, was the number one hero, All Might, as many of the students would look on in complete shock before some of them would jump up just saying, "Whoa, it's All Might! I've never seen him in person before! Oh, that's so cool!" As All Might would then laugh, saying, "Ha, yeah, well, I'm gonna be your hero teacher. I've decided I'd rather take a backer role in helping others, as I don't really have the best of strength since I've been getting older. However, I'd rather teach any of the younger, just the younger heroes, so I can teach the next generation." As many people would agree with this, as they would then say, "Yeah, I mean, there is tons of heroes that could just save. You would just get there a bit sooner." As All Might would then say, "I didn't really word that too well. Kind of sounds like I'm not really wanting to save as many people and letting many more people die." As he would only think this in his head, as he would then tell the class what their assignment was going to be, as they were going to be doing a Heroes vs. Villains assessment, and this assessment would be just one team versus another team. This team would end up being a hero team of 3 versus a villain team of 3, as many people would nod their heads, wondering what this could possibly be, as All Might would then tell them, "You know how you made your hero costumes a couple days ago and sketched them out?" Many of the students would nod their heads, wondering what Aizawa was going for, or not Aizawa, All Might was going for, as All Might would then click a big red button on a remote, as all of a sudden a massive slider comes out of the wall, revealing many suitcases, just identified by the number of the desk number that they sat at. So Izuku would end up, along with everyone else, walking over and grabbing their suitcase. Izuku had already had his hero costume, and he told them he didn't need it, and so he would just wear it into school the day the hero class. However, he just didn't bother and would rather just have it in his backpack. So Izuku would end up pulling his hero costume out of his backpack after seeing that his suitcase was empty. He would then put this hero costume in his suitcase, as they would then be told to go down to the locker rooms, get changed, and would then meet him down at the city area, or testing city, as they would all do this in record pace, and getting there right at All Might, wondering, "Are we going to begin now? This is our first hero class, we're quite ready." As All Might would then say, "So I might as well start to just explain what the teams are going to be." Many of the students would nod their heads, as All Might would then pull out a fishbowl full of just many different name tags. All Might would pull out one name and would read it off, then pulling out another and then another. That was Team 1, which just happened to be Izuku, Bakugo, and Todoroki. As many of the kids seeing this, after seeing the power that they displayed during the fight with Aizawa a week before this, they would all think, "Oh, they're doomed. There's no way they're gonna lose to that team. There's no way they're gonna win against that team," as they were most likely right. The next team would end up being Ida, Tokiyami, and Momo, as they would then be told that is Team 1 and 2. The first team will be the villains, while the second team will be the heroes. So Ida, Momo, and Tokiyami would end up sit there just wondering how they're going to go about catching whatever they were supposed to do. All Might would then explain to them how the villains have 5 minutes to hide a device, and they have to either touch the device or disable all 3 of the villains. So they would nod their heads, as All Might would then tell this to the villains, who would rush into the building before hiding the device. So Izuku would end up stretching, wondering what was about to happen, as they were then just told that the 5 minutes were up and the heroes had now entered the building. Izuku would rush over to a window, opening it up before jumping out and flying up to the rooftop, as he would then see if they had gone on the outside. However, this was not the case, as no one else was on the outside. So Izuku would end up going back in, saying that no one was in on the outside and that they all must be in the inside, and that they can now go out and just search for them. Izuku wasn't really concentrated on focusing and just searching to where their key was, as he was only thinking about just what they should do and what their strategies were, as he didn't bother to search where their key was. So Izuku would end up rushing down with both Bakugo and Todoroki, as they would end up finding where Tokiyami, Momo, and Ida were, as Ida would rush Izuku and would then kick him, but Izuku was easily able to dodge this. However, this kick would end up landing right at Bakugo's face, sending him flying into a wall, implanting himself in it, as he would end up falling back to the ground, holding his head in pain. As Tokiyami would then summon his bird Quirk, or I forgot the name, I think it's something Shadow. I really just forgot about Tokiyami for a while. So Tokiyami would end up getting out this bird, sending it right at Todoroki, who was off guard after seeing Bakugo being taken down by one hit, would then be sent flying backwards, but he would barely be able to get up from the attack, being blindsided by the shadow-type Quirk. So there stood Izuku versus Ida and Tokiyami. However, he had saw that one of them had slipped away, as he would then end up using the key to sense where they were, as Izuku would then realize that they were on the outside of the building, as Momo had then made suction cups to end up climbing the building, hoping to get to the final floor. Izuku would send many ki blasts right at Tokiyami and Ida to hopefully give them, just to send them away, and which would also cause a smoke screen for Izuku to get away, as Izuku would rush to the stairs before jumping up, smashing through the bottom set of stairs, finally reaching the top floor, as he would end up hearing the window being smashed open as he had shut it behind him. Izuku would end up rushing over to see Momo climbing through and then reaching towards the device, as Izuku would end up jumping in the way, as he would grab Momo's hand before slamming her into the wall behind him, as she would be so close to touching the bomb, as Izuku would notice that his attack had knocked her out, as Izuku would then see Ida and Tokiyami reach the top floor, as they would then see Izuku breathing heavily, as Momo had been knocked out, as Izuku he used his breathing heavily as a distraction, as Ida would charge Izuku thinking he was weak from a fight with Momo. However, that was not the case. Ida would go for a jab with his hand and then a kick. However, Izuku was easily able to block both of these before punching Ida directly in the stomach, shattering the armor shattering Ida's hero costume, as the armor around Ida would end up just falling or flaking off. Then Izuku would look towards Tokiyami to see that he was rushing towards the device. However, Izuku was behind the bomb or the device, while Tokiyami was right in front of it. So Izuku would hop over the bomb, reaching towards Tokiyami, but it wouldn't work, as he had touched the bomb, giving the second team the victory, as many of the students looked on in shock, as they would think, what? How did they beat Team 1? That team was full of powerhouses. As Izuku would then look over towards Ida and Tokiyami before saying that they did a good job and a good luck on their future in this class. As Izuku would then walk over, grabbing Todoroki and Bakugo from the floor that they were on, as he would then leave, going back to where the place was, dropping both of them off at Recovery Girl's office, as he would then go back to where All Might had told them to go, and would then watch the rest of his team's fight, as many of them would end up asking Izuku how they lost, as Izuku would tell them they lost because of a combined plan that Team 2 had, and that they didn't really strategize before just rushing in and doing something stupid. They should have strategized before this, as they were easily able to blindside Bakugo, who was in pain with his head after having it hit the metal walls, and had then seen Todoroki end up being sent flying back and barely being able to move, as they just had seen their most powerful attacks by Tokuyami and Ida, which just happened to hit because both of them were not paying attention at all, as Izuku would blame that for the reason they lost, as Izuku would also think that he really wasn't trying to give them a chance, but that's besides the point, as Aizawa, who's also watching this, would realize that Izuku was barely trying at all, and that if he could possibly have killed Team 2 if he really wanted to. Aizawa would have seen this after seeing him easily wipe out the 0-pointer. He would know Izuku could have done this, as Izuku really didn't even use his ki attacks at all throughout the fight, only sensing where their ki was, as everyone has a small amount of ki within them. It works much like my Kaioken series, how ki evolved into Quirks, and that Quirkless people just have a higher level of ki than others, however many of them just couldn't control it. And that's where I'm going to leave this what if off, everyone. I thank you all for watching. Remember, I would like to thank True Beta for making the thumbnails for this series, a link in the description to their channel, and also, if you would like to become a plugin or / channel member, if you want to know more information about it, there should be a join button right by the subscribe button that if you click it, you can end up seeing all of the details there. I thank you all for watching once again, and goodbye.